It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show! Hey everybody, it's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey gang.
Les Webster.
Hello all.
And Liz Newman.
Hello everybody.
How are you guys doing?
I always feel like I'm the Simpsons doctor when I say hello everybody. Who's that, Dr. Nick?
Hi,
Yeah.
Dr. Nick.
Hi, Dr. Nick.
Hi, Dr. Nick.
Worst introduction ever. With that, I hope everybody out there is doing okay. So, what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
Well, I'm still working through that pile. So in this past week, I have finished those #1 issues of the 100-page Giants, and I have started getting caught up on Knights of the Dinner Table.
Woohoo!
Yep. I've got a Kickstarter book in the wings that I'm looking forward to getting to after that. So hopefully next week I'll have that. Or be into it anyway.
Well, that would be kind of apropos since next week will be our Kickstarter episode. So hey,
Woo!
good timing.
Yep.
All right.
Well, I haven't read a lot this week with the holiday and everything we just got through with, but I did get through all of my Supernatural. Yes. It was amazing. If you haven't seen the newest season yet, oh man, it's really good. I can't wait for the next season to start. But the Scooby-Doo episode was amazing. Even if you don't watch Supernatural, the way that they did this one, you could really just watch that episode and not have to really know anything, other, than the personality of the guys, So that one was really good. But then the holiday, I got swept into a Marvel marathon totally by accident.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
Totally by accident. Well, it was kind of... It's one of those you're flipping through the channels and you're like, oh, wait, that's Robert Downey Jr. And
Are you
I think
sure?
It was him. And it's funny because... If Phil hears me say Robert Downey Jr., he thinks of this old guy who used to be a TV host.
Morton.
I don't know if yeah.
Wow.
It's like two different guys.
Two very, very different guys.
Yeah. So I got Avengers 1 and 2 watched, and Iron Man 1 and 2. So it was pretty good. Full day,
Dang, yeah.
Yeah. I think they're coming back up on FX. They played them kind of, I guess, in their sequence.
Oh, FX plays them all the time, especially if there's a superhero movie in the vicinity.
Yeah.
Yeah, they like to do that.
I guess with the past ones that they've played, you would be ready for the new movie that's out. Well, I guess it's not new, but the newest.
The latest and greatest.
Yep.
Or the latest, anyway.
And then I also got, you guys were telling me about the Birth of the Living Dead.
Yep.
Well,
Yes.
Amazon also has that, so I got part of that watch too.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was kind of cute because the other night I watched the living room and I noticed Brandon had Night of the Living Dead on TV, the black and white, and it was like, whoa. And he says, yeah, I heard you guys talking about it, and I thought I'd watch it. So it's like, yes, we pulled another one to our side, guys. So he actually enjoyed that one better than the new one. So, yay, Mom scored a cool point.
One of us. One of us.
I would be impressed if he actually watched that and said, "Hey, that was actually pretty good."
He did. He did. He actually said he liked it. He says, but man, that ending was messed up. And I'm like, yeah.
What, he's seen Freaks?
Oh, not Freaks. I thought you meant the Living Dead.
Oh, no. But I'm talking about that's where that reference comes from.
Ah, no. I don't think he's watched that one. I'll slowly get him to watch a little bit more black and white TV.
That is what that was what it was called, right, guys?
Yes, Freaks. Todd Brown.
Freaks, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I will admit I have not watched all of that. I need to.
Oh yeah, watch it. It is messed up, but watch it.
Yep.
That's one thing I had noticed on our show. We didn't say how that movie ended.
No, why should we do that? You don't want to spoil a 50-year-old movie. Come on now.
Which was probably the most messed up part of the whole movie,
Oh yeah, it's downright depressing.
Yeah, you don't expect it to go that way, The sun's out, the birds are chirping. He's free. He made it.
Yeah, well,
Or
he should have moved a little faster is what should have happened.
Or called out, hey,
Spoken. That would have been good.
Something. I thought the gun in his hand would have gave it away, but,
Yeah, they kind of couldn't see that from where they were.
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of shot in the wind. Never mind. We need to stop doing this.
It was a shot in the dark.
Oh.
It's a shot in the dark.
That's another.
That was Peter Sellers.
Yep.
It was also Ozzy, too.
That's what I was thinking. I went to Ozzy.
I thought of both. How crazy is that?
Been meaning to talk to you about that.
Off of his Ultimate Sin album. 1986, I believe.
I think so. What, you were wanting to talk about that album, Les? I didn't realize you were an Ozzy fan.
We could review that album on the show, sure.
There you go. Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've listened to it. Need to pull
Coming
it
up
out
next
again.
week.
There you go.
I visited the Alamo shortly after his appearance there.
Ah.
Really?
The infamous appearance.
Yeah. It was pretty infamous.
That was. I think Texas hated him for years after that.
I'm not sure
But
they
then
don't still.
I was about to say that I'm sure there's some that still do.
Well, it was his Retirement Sucks tour. Not the third one, but the first one he actually did, Retirement Sucks, and I think that he was actually allowed to come back here for concerts. It took him a while to get over that. So,
Well, they were looking for the basement at the Alamo.
for Pee-wee's bike.
Such an opportunity pissed away.
Which, I'm a drafted in Texan. You can't tell by my accent, but I wasn't born here. But at first it was kind of like, okay, he peed, and they're like, no. He peed on the Alamo, so yeah.
Yeah, but okay, here we go, folks. Ozzy Osbourne. All you got to do is go to the friggin' Wikipedia page. It's not like it's a surprise that he's going to do something shocking at some point. Come on.
Well, in his defense, he was probably so whacked out he didn't realize he was at the Alamo.
Oh, that's a given. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
That's
He probably thought he
100%
was in the
guaranteed.
bathroom.
Alcohol and drugs were involved, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I challenge you to find a 2-week period in his life in the last 40 years where that has not been the case.
True.
Probably these last 2 weeks.
Yeah, you're an optimist.
Yeah. Les? Your turn.
Oh, I'm just taking all this in.
This is Ozzy, like Ozzy and Harriet.
Wow, thanks a lot. Jim, Christmas.
You know I love you.
Right. Like you need a second hole in the head.
the second one out.
I just kind of hung around. I did attend a football game this weekend at North Texas, after which they had a wrestling match.
Interesting.
The Von Erichs wrestling family are well known in the Denton area because Father Fritz, before his passing, lived up in that area, and then his children attended North Texas. Kevin, his surviving son, all of Kevin's siblings have passed, but they've got a...
Wasn't Kevin the youngest one?
No, Kevin was
the old one.
Second or third.
Okay.
Of 5 boys, 5 wrestling. Now there could have been other children, but there were 5 wrestlers, if I recall.
Yeah.
And Kevin's children are wrestlers. His daughter is retired from wrestling for about 10 years now. And I think it's 2 of his sons, but I'm thinking, boy, they look awfully young to be his sons. But what they did was set up a wrestling ring at the 50-yard line, and then invited people, the crowd, to come down. And I would say there were 2,000 maybe still there for the wrestling. They had 6 matches. Let's see, you had local names like Iceman King Parsons, Jack Swagger, the Von Erichs. You had the daughter of Terry Gordy. You had Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Wow.
And in the 6 matches, including one of which was a women's match. But in the 6 matches, you had 6 winning teams or individuals, and they were all the good guys. I think they were doing this to promote the wrestling organization, which is up in that area. I'm not sure, but I think the World Wrestling Entertainment Group, WWE, is part of this too. I think they are the group that said, well, here, you can have this program. And as a result, it was kind of fun. I didn't get home till extremely late.
I bet. 6 wrestling matches after the football game. Holy cow.
Right.
Football game, yes. Yeah, it was 1 in the morning when I finally walked through the door.
Man.
But it was fun. Had a good time.
Yeah, I gotta admit, I haven't heard some of those names you're spouting now in a while.
That's what I was thinking.
Dang, I remember them from, don't take
the
this
80s?
the wrong way, I remember them from the 80s, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was coming into it late.
See, I remember WWE more than I do WWF. And it was like 2 different, but WWE used to do their stuff in downtown Dallas. And I had an uncle who was like insanely crazy about the Von Erichs, so I've actually watched them fight quite a few times. But it was just something everybody got around the TV and, you watched them. But like I said, I haven't heard some of them names in, golly, quite a while.
Well, it's unusual to see because the older wrestlers are still out there and they still do their shticks.
Huh.
Jim Duggan was trying to get the crowd going by chanting USA. They were wrestling a pair of guys that looked of Middle Eastern descent. So, yeah, they got the crowd going. It was fun.
Back in the day, the Iraqi descent, wasn't that Kareem Al-Jabbar? Wasn't he?
No.
WWE?
No.
No? Oh.
I think you're thinking of the Iron Sheik or something like that. But
Yeah, the Iron Sheik.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was a NBA player.
Oh.
Also a co-pilot.
See, I think you're right with the Iron Sheik.
Yeah, but he could have been a wrestler too.
He was a martial artist.
Yes.
He actually co-starred in a Bruce Lee movie at one point.
He was trained by Bruce Lee. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Bruce trained a lot of them. James Coburn. Wasn't Steve McQueen taking lessons from him as well? I'm going to be mistaken, but I know James Coburn did, and I think Chuck took some lessons. I think he was a student at one point. I could be wrong. It wouldn't be the first time today.
Wow.
So cool. Yeah, it sounds like that was a long day for you.
But an interesting
Well worth it.
Yeah. Actually, this was my week to have a big bag of nothing. So, yay.
Those are always fun, too.
They have their purposes.
Yeah.
All right. Before we get into this week's topic, want to take a couple of moments to say thank you to our fine sponsor, Things from Another World, for supporting the fellowship. And they got some great deals going on, as always. If you go to our website, www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, and click on the Sponsors tab, you will see what deals they are running, which right now are only their evergreen deals, but hey, those are still pretty awesome, which include 40% off comics, statues, toys, and merchandise, 30% off select pre-order manga titles, and 50% off Nick and Dent comics. While you're on that page, you'll see an ad for Things from Another World. Just click on that ad, or click on some of those links that's listed on the special deals, and that'll take you to their website and let them know that we sent you their way, and have some fun. It's not too early to start thinking about Christmas.
Oh,
Hey,
boy.
there's
Only a couple of months away. I'm one of them.
You don't have to put your Christmas lights up yet, but it probably needs to be in the back of your mind at the very back. That hey, it's closer than you think.
See, I do a Nightmare Before Christmas. That way you can leave it up for like 6 months.
Hey, there's people who leave the lights on all year round. So,
Oh, you're one of those.
Well,
my favorite
I
time of
was
year.
thinking that you would probably check the lights, make sure they work, since you've left them up all year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
See, we're
about
not
that
allowed
time.
to put lights up anymore. I live on a curve, and so Phil went up on the roof, being the good daddy was doing Christmas lights, and we had extra left over, so he decided to do a big star on our roof. Well, from the end of the block, the way the house sits, it looks like we had an upside-down star
Ooh,
on the roof.
There you go.
So
wow.
we're not allowed to do Christmas lights anymore.
You know, it's really hard to get those lines straight on those stars up on the roof, you know?
Especially when you're not thinking which way the house is sitting. Yeah.
Well, yeah. It's on a hill, you know.
From space, it was correct, though.
Alrighty.
Wow, we've never actually derailed a commercial before, have we?
There you go. No, always the first.
Thank you.
She's here all week. Try the halibut.
Halibut for the halibut.
See, they'll miss me because they won't hear this till Sunday.
Alrighty. Decided to do something a little different this week. Which it's kind of funny now to think about it, because as much as we complain about this kind of stuff, we're going to turn around and do it. As you no doubt are aware, a lot of successful shows from the past have been coming back recently, such as like Murphy Brown, Will and Grace. There's talk about rebooting Frasier, but it'd still be with Kelsey Grammer, which I'm not sure how much of that's really a reboot, but I'll go with that. So I thought, well, why not? Let's have a little fun, since we've had fun kind of doing casting and that kind of thing. So kind of, pick up some shows where we might want to reboot them or just remake them, or if you can get the original cast back to kind of do a new series or something like that. So that was our little homework assignment for this week. So with that groundwork being laid, who'd like to go first with their reboot or reunion show, I guess you want to call it, or whatever?
Well, I have one.
Okay.
And I guess I don't really want it to be a reboot. The Secret Circle. They worked it up, and it got really good in the storyline, and then they canceled it. So it's kind of like, I want to know what happened. They all got their powers, and they were, turning into these, badass witches and everything else, and they were setting up the fight against this one to this one, and before all hell broke loose, they canceled the show. So I'd like to know what happened. Reboot it, reunite, or I'm not sure.
Wait, when
Give
was
us
this?
a movie? The Secret Circle?
Yeah. This is not ringing any bells at all.
Yeah, not for me either, unfortunately.
No.
No idea what you're talking about, right?
Yeah. I think it only lasted a season. And
Recently?
it was kind of... No, it's been a few years.
Okay.
Golly, it's been quite a few years.
We're not passing any
2011.
judgment on how long ago it was. Don't worry. I'm just...
Yeah, believe me, because some of mine are a little bit older than that, but that's okay.
Let me see if I can find when that was.
It was 2011.
2011.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
look it up.
Yep.
Okay.
But one of the girls on there, we had followed over from another show, which only made it a season. So I don't know.
So it's the Jeff Goldblum effect. There you go.
Ooh.
Yep.
Ouch.
But it was really good. It kind of, without the host sister thing, it kind of could have been a Charmed series. and you had the good witches, and they were finding out, one girl's mother had like burnt to death, and she was finding out the truth of what happened that night, and it was pretty much a spell gone bad. So it was interesting, but it's kind of one of those, they left you hanging, when everything was finally falling into place. So at least, a movie. Didn't they do that with Firefly? Just a movie or something to kind of tie everything up for us? And
yeah, but they didn't really tie everything.
They tied up a couple of things, and then you muddied a whole lot of water otherwise. But yeah.
Opened another couple of cans of worms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I kind of chuckled when you were talking about there being good witches, because what I thought of was, are you a good witch or a bad witch?
Holy cats, we are all over the place with our movie references tonight. All over the place. I'm pretty sure we've already hit every decade. That's how bad this is. I mean, yeesh.
Well. Hey, we're providing Easter eggs for our listeners, so there you go.
We are totally doing that.
Alrighty. So who would like to go next?
I'll jump one in real quick. And my first one here is a cheat. Because I got my wish. And this is probably, this is probably the number one show that I would have wanted a reunion for, and I totally got it, because I have been a Red Dwarf fan for a long time. Red Dwarf first started airing in 1988, and was picked up on this side of the pond by public television pretty quickly. I mean, I remember watching some of these in college, which would have been the early 90s. They ran, between 88 and 99, they ran 8 seasons of this show. And I won't go into too much detail, but it's the story of a small group of people on an interstellar ship, a mining ship, which, due to an engine accident and some confused wiring, basically the one guy, Lister, was trapped in suspended animation for 3 million years, and was awakened finally when the radiation levels went down far enough, which 3 million years. And all he had to keep him company was a hologram of his bunkmate, who he hated, and the insane ship's computer, and a life form that evolved from the ship's cat, from the cat that basically got him put in suspended animation in the first place. So that's the nutshell. It's a sci-fi comedy. Like I said, by 99 you had 8 seasons of it, and then nothing. 10 years later, in 2009, they finally decide, okay, we want to see what we can do. So they put together what was basically a 3-episode little mini-series. And it was so successful that it sparked another season of the show in 2012, which was then so well received that it sparked an 11th season in 2016 and a 12th season last year. Last I heard, there are plans for a 13th season next year.
Cool.
So I totally got my wish. The show came back. The episodes are actually pretty darn good.
Woo-hoo.
And I'm happy. So it can happen, folks. It can happen. Even if your stars are pushing 60 and way out of shape, it can still happen.
Nice.
That's very cool. It was a great show. And when they brought it back, I was very happy to see it.
Yep.
Alrighty. I'm going to go next. There was a show, I guess this was back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, that I kind of dug. It was really cool. And it kind of disappeared. And it's one of those shows that it's one of those anthology shows that kind of pops up every once in a while. But there was just something different about this one. And this one was called The Hitchhiker. I'm not sure if y'all remember that one.
Oh, yes.
Yep. He came on after the Hulk.
Did he?
He did?
He did. Well, family night. It was The Hitchhiker and then the Hulk.
Okay, The Hitchhiker I was talking about was like on HBO or something like that. It was kind of late in the evening because there was some stuff going on that you couldn't show on regular TV. So, are we sure we're talking about the same show?
We may not be talking about the same movie.
Was that called The Hitchhiker or was it called The Hitcher?
I think it was pretty.
Because that was a different show.
I'm thinking of The Hitchhiker. Let me
see.
Yeah, let me.
Now you guys have me doubting myself.
Yeah. I seem to remember it being called
Okay,
Hitchhiker.
The Hitcher was a movie. Never mind. I'm sorry.
No, that's him walking down the street. Yeah.
Rutger Hauer. Which they... Oh my god, did they remake that?
Yeah, I think they did.
Yep, it is a remake. Oh god, they remade it in 2007. So hey, there you go. We got another one right there.
There you go. Yeah, this was a mystery anthology series that aired from 1983 to 87 on HBO, and then moved to USA Network from 89 to 91, which I'm sure some of that may have been edited.
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
So.
Because I don't think I was allowed to watch HBO in 83.
Well, I wasn't allowed to, but I did anyway, you know.
Yeah, pretty much here, same here. Yeah, so I'm talking about the HBO version, not necessarily the USA Network, but it was it was a cool little show, like
Yeah, kind of weird.
Yeah, there was always something kind of unusual stories, but the only thing that kind of tied them together was this guy who was hitchhiking down the road. Kind of doing a Rod Serling type, hosting duties.
Not too terribly unlike, if we want a modern comparison, the Ice Cream Man comic that we some of us at least have been checking out. It's
That's true.
Kind of that kind of thing.
Yep. That's a good point.
But yeah, that would be interesting.
That's cool.
All right, Les, how about you?
I wish they would reboot a series called Crime Story. NBC carried this, and Dennis Farina had the lead on the TV show, and it was about a group of policemen that were given power by the federal government to come down on the underworld, and it happened in Las Vegas. So there were great shots of early Vegas. I'm looking at the 50s and 60s before it became a huge area. I enjoyed this because it was Michael Mann that did Miami Vice.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of color to it, and it was extremely gritty. I thought it was just some of the best stuff, but then they had a cliffhanger and never resolved it. And I was so PO'd because the plane, it's not a spoiler, it's, 20 years at least. The plane blew up and you didn't know who survived, if anybody. They pulled NBC pulled the plug right after that, and I was not happy. It's time to finish this off. So there's my 2 cents right there.
Sounds like fun.
Yep.
Coming from the other guy who gets into crime stories around here.
Okay.
My next one is one they've talked about redoing, but it hasn't been done yet. It ran for 3 seasons, and it's The Greatest American Hero. It was a funny movie, or I guess it started off as a 2-hour movie that went into a miniseries, or I don't know if that's just how they premiered it or not, but it was a movie first, I believe. But it was pretty funny. Superhero, kind of one of those klutzy kind of superheroes. So
He was only klutzy because he lost the book, the guide on how to.
Yeah,
How to be
he
a
didn't know how to
hero.
work the suit.
Yep.
Yep.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Like I said, they've talked about redoing that one, and I don't think it ever got past the talking about it, but it would be a good one to redo, especially in today's times,
The
Could have
last
a little
I
more
heard,
fun
which
with
is
it.
the last I heard, which has been in the last few months, about them doing a female version, which kind of instead of it being a male character, being a female character, and which the thing is they actually tried that back when the show was going on. They did like a little quick spin-off, but it really went nowhere. So it's we're not exactly new territory, but yeah. I mean, in the age of the superhero movies and TV shows, it would seem like this would be a nice one to try again and see if maybe it might catch on a little bit better than that one did.
Yeah.
Worth a shot.
Yep.
Yep.
It's a good choice.
Thank you. I said most people don't know it. I know the theme song, and me and my sister will start singing it, and they're like, we have never heard of that. It's like,
I think they're just trying to get you to stop singing. I don't.
Probably.
So you were never asked back to Cracker Barrel, huh?
Yeah, she's not
Believe it
allowed
or
back
not.
at that karaoke night again.
Believe it or not, that happened.
Believe it or not.
I can carry a tune, though. Part of the prerequisite of being a preacher's kid is you all have to sing, so... I know how to sing. That's just one of those little gems that not a lot of people have heard about,
Which is probably why it really only lasted 1 season anyway. But
Oh, it lasted 3.
oh, was it 3?
Uh-huh.
Sorry, most of mine
Yeah,
are
I
1 season
won
wonders.
a tribute contest by that one.
Oh, yeah?
That was the final question. And the trivia game had gone so long that the guy said, just shout out the name instead of writing the name down, because we were naming TV show theme songs. And I shouted out that one because I started writing, and he said, no, just shout it out. So, yep, we won with that one.
That's cool.
There you go.
It was a pretty catchy little theme song, though.
Yes.
I think it did well on the charts back in the day too.
Oh, yeah?
I believe it got some airplay, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
on the radio. Back when that was a thing.
Alrighty.
Am I up next?
I guess so.
All right. Going to dive back into the early 90s for this one. There was a series that lasted one season. I believe it was on Fox, if I remember correctly. And I'm not seeing any notes here than what I'm looking at. But it was a lot of fun. And I didn't get into Westerns much. And I mean, I still kind of don't. I mean, but this one was odd enough that I thought it was interesting. And I didn't really watch it a lot when it was on at first, but caught it in reruns not too long after. I would like to see a reboot of some sort, or if not a reboot, then a reunion. I think a reunion would be awesome. But either way, The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr.
Woohoo! Yay!
I think it would be cool as hell to see Bruce Campbell back in the saddle. But, you know, I'd take a reboot. I would take a younger guy. Find somebody that could pull that off. But it was just a fun little show. It was. I thought it was a cool, modern successor to the Wild Wild West. And I think it would have been fun if they had played it that way a little more, but if nothing else, Bruce Campbell is just a hoot.
She is.
And I wish this show had lasted longer. I really do. And so, let's see it again. Let's see some more. Maybe you can even do the old cliched TV movie where Briscoe shows up and hands the reins down to Briscoe County the Third or somebody else or whatever.
Junior.
It would just be fun.
That's a really good choice. I remember watching that and thinking this is way too cool for regular television. They need to do this on HBO or something, and that way they can extend it to 90 minutes or better each episode.
The thing is they can do that now.
Mm-hmm. Wow, and the Wild Wild West, I haven't thought about that one for years either. That was another good one.
I would have picked that one, but the movie ruined it for everybody.
Yeah. It did.
I mean, it was a great idea. The show was really cool. The movie ruined it.
But it's,
I mean, I don't say that
much. The wrong
much.
guy goofy. I can't remember their names right now, but the Playboy who Will Smith played, he was not supposed to be the funny one. You know? It was his other friend that was always the funny one and making little wisecracks and that kind of thing. So
well, okay. So the deal was the original show wasn't a comedy either.
It wasn't. No,
it was a dramatic show.
Yep. He was the comedy relief of the show. You know,
right?
Anything funny, it came from, what was his name? Barnabas or
Artemis.
Artemis.
Artemis Gordon.
Yeah.
So it always came from Artemis. You know, was it James? Was the other guy?
James West.
James West.
Yep. He was the suave and, you know, kick your butt without messing his hair up.
Right. He was the star.
Yep.
He was
the eye candy.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much.
Yep.
Back when TV shows had to have that, and movies did too a lot.
But, yeah. And he didn't have to say a whole lot; just be there.
Throw a decent punch and look good.
Yep. And be able to walk in those tight little pants.
Well, yeah, that too.
Yeah, that was a good one too.
Yep.
Okay, my turn.
Yeah.
This is one I would love to see brought back, just because I think there would be some interesting story ideas considering how things have changed so much in the in the industry since the show had gone off. The problem is a lot of some of the cast has either passed away or has retired, but I think a lot of the major actors could come back and want to do it. And it's WKRP in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Huh.
It just because okay, and my premise is to bring Andy Travis back and try to fix the station again. And of course, we're dealing with what's the identity of the station in the world of XM and Sirius Radio and everything's it's so segregated. You know, okay, is it pop? Is it classic rock? Is it R&B? You know, those who have not watched the show in a long time. Remember, it was rock and roll during the day, but when Venus Flytrap was doing the overnights, he was not playing rock music.
No, he was not.
It was jazz, wasn't it?
A little bit of everything. There was jazz and and R&B, that kind of thing. So, it would be. I don't know. It was funny because I caught one of the shows recently, and I thought, how would this station react to how things are today?
Yeah, because a lot of them are moving to an app system and off the radio because there's just not a lot of listeners anymore.
Right. Yeah. So
that would be pretty cool.
It would definitely be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I would love to see Jan Smithers again.
That's one of the actors who's retired. She's been out of it for a long time. Because I was like, where are some of these actors nowadays? So did a little kind of looked into it, and she's one of them that hasn't been in the game for a long time. So yeah, it would be great. I thought she was great as Bailey. So.
Yep.
Wow, I haven't thought about some of these shows in a while. Memories.
That's why we're here, dear.
Yeah,
right?
Kind of why we do these
I
things.
didn't go
like
far
this.
enough back.
Well, wait a second.
Your next, Les?
My next show is The Pretender, the television program where the man was taken as a child by an organization, and he was taught to be anything and everything. He could be a doctor, he could be a lawyer. I don't remember him being an Indian chief, but it was a great premise where he could go to a location and be a star, we'll say doctor, and thwart both the company that created him because he wanted to escape them, and he would do good in so doing. It was kind of like The Fugitive in that way, yet there were so many cool things that were happening around him. One episode he was a doctor, and he was Dr. Fine. And I sat there and I knew it was going to come, and they did. He was talking to a fellow doctor, Howard, and they came across the intercom with calling Dr. Howard, Dr. Fine, Dr. Howard. and I lost it.
Good. I'm glad they did it. I don't remember that one specifically, but I'm glad they did that.
My wife looked at me like I was crazy, and I said, that is a classic line. But the series ended on a cliffhanger, of course.
Yeah.
Then TBS picked it up to do a final show, and they ended up trying to do it in 3 episodes and still didn't define it. To me, since it was something they could have finished up, I wish they would have. It was just a great series to sit and watch and try to take it all in. But they decided, no, we're done. I would love to see this one come back.
Yeah, that was a good show. I agree.
That one was.
Yep, the perfect undercover man.
Mm-hmm.
So good that they couldn't keep track of him. They couldn't track him down themselves.
Dope.
And they had an agent that was in constant pursuit.
Yep.
Yet she wasn't able to get to him.
Good old Miss Parker.
Yes.
She was not good in any way, honestly. But yeah, she was a piece of work, that one.
And I always thought that when they remade, or when they did the movie of the Avengers, the TV series,
Oh, right.
I always thought that she would be the perfect fit for that, because she looked like the lead in that show.
Diana Rigg.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I think she would have been a good choice for that.
Cool.
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Mine is also an experiment gone wrong. Quantum Leap. I thought it was pretty neat how every time he was someone different. But of course it wasn't him, different. You didn't see the person he was until he looked into a mirror or something, and so people didn't see him. They saw the person that whoever's body he took over, which is always real weird, Yeah, like you said, oh boy. Every time the show would start, it was always something, he's dropped right in the middle of whatever that person's doing. So, no matter how good or bad it may be.
Or awkward.
Yeah, very awkward. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. And I think it would still
How long did that
fit
show
with
run?
today's times. And golly, let me see. March 26th of 89 to May 5th of 93.
So that's like 4 seasons. 3 or 4 seasons.
It's 5.
Whatever.
Yeah.
If you're going to bring math into
somewhere
this,
around,
I'm out.
somewhere around there. Yeah, somewhere around there. It's all right.
But that
back in
one
the
did
day-
have an ending.
Did it?
Yes, he showed up on the Enterprise.
Oh. Oh, wow.
You're really proud of that? No, there's where I have the disagreement, because they did end that series.
Yeah, she wants
And
it
I
back
thought it was
anyway.
It
Yeah,
was a
but
clever ending for what they had.
for a reboot, though,
But it was in the series ending, he was saying, they said that he just kind of disappeared. And to me, that was...
Yeah, but a reboot, they would go back to the
Start
beginning
at
and
the
start
beginning
all
again.
over. For a reboot.
The thing I really liked about the series was the time frame. Everything was within his time frame, his life. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Next.
Oh, was that me?
Okay.
I'm actually going to do a slightly newer show on this one. And because this was, I thought, an interesting twist on the usual cop show. Not only because it was more from like the ME's point of view, but because there was a whole lot of backstory with this particular ME. Do any of you remember a show called Forever?
Mm-mm.
This
Nope.
was like in 2014. This is only a few years old. And the doctor in question, his name was Henry Morgan. And he had a bit of a secret. And his secret was that he was over 200 years old.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Try
I
as
remember
he
this one
might,
now.
he could not die. Or, I guess more specifically, if he did die, he woke up in the East River, floating, and would then have to swim to climb out of the river, and he was buck naked, so he learned after several attempts at this that he needed to like have a stash of clothes nearby or whatever. But yeah, so he's a medical examiner in the city of New York, and kind of pairs up with one of the detectives, and so that's how he kind of gets actually in front of bad guys and gets himself into trouble. And there was kind of a nemesis character too, who was allegedly, we never really got to know this because it only lasted one season. It was kind of abruptly canceled too. This nemesis character claimed to also be immortal, but we didn't really get enough information about that. So it was an interest. I mean, as cop shows go, it was a pretty good one. The cases were interesting. This guy was pretty good. He had gotten good. I mean, kind of Highlander-esque. Had gotten pretty good at pretending to be a descendant of his own sort of thing, and he actually had adopted a kid back during World War II who was kind of pretending to be his dad. He owned an antique shop. He was played by
Judd Hirsch.
Yeah, Judd Hirsch. That's it. Oh man, totally lost that one. Oh, there it is. Huh. I hadn't scrolled down far enough. So yeah, and so that was fun. That was an interesting relationship. So there were a lot of cool little things about this show that I thought were interesting and would have been even more so if it had continued, and then ABC just sort of axed it at the end of the season. So this is recent enough that you could just pick it right back up with the same cast if you could. I don't know. I think it would be interesting.
Yeah, it didn't dawn on me until you started kind of telling the premise. I remember the show because it starred, I'm going to butcher his name, Ewan Gruffo.
Yeah.
Who played Reed Richards in the Fantastic Four films.
Uh-huh.
And from what I saw, it was a pretty good show. The premise was great. So, yeah, this seems like one that we would want to pick up again. Yeah.
I guess ABC decided it was a little too weird, which I actually
Of
thought
course.
it was, given the premise, I thought they did a pretty good job of keeping it mundane, but whatever. They didn't ask my opinion, obviously. But yeah.
Good choice.
It is.
I guess I'm up next. And mine would be a reboot. Go a little different from the original version. It's kind of funny that I have this on my list considering our discussion pre-show. But the show I was thinking about possibly coming back, still be somewhat of a comedy, but with a little bit more. I guess you call it a dramedy. And the show is Benson.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
And kind of the path I was would be, in the show, Robert Yellen's character was the head of household affairs. And with this version, I would say he's chief of staff. And actually, I could see this as a vehicle starring Don Cheadle. And I think it would be really cool because he could do a show like this. Handle the comedy, but also deal with some serious issues. That kind of thing. I think, and of course, you still have to have the somewhat crazy governor. Maybe tone it down a little bit, but not as absent-minded and all that.
I don't know. There's been shows since that have done kind of similar premises.
That's true.
That would be cool.
Mm-hmm.
I like that one. I remember I liked that show a lot when it was on.
I did too.
Okay, Les?
Well, I am happy to say my next is returning this fall.
Ooh, another win.
And that is Last Man Standing with Gil Allen.
Yep.
I'm one of those that I love the idea of the banter between the conservative and the liberal on the show. I just thought it was a very funny sketch. The comedy was not so slanted as witnessed in the revival of Will and Grace, which I enjoy, but I get to a point in the political comments that I want to walk away from it.
Yep.
But in Last Man Standing, they were even keel with it. You got the pluses on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was...
they were respectful to both sides.
I'm sorry?
They were respectful to both sides.
Yes, they were. So that's what I'm happy to say is returning. I know that there are other returning shows, but that one I'm real happy to see.
Me too. Well, it was one of their highest rating shows, and they chopped it, which made no sense. So I was glad when someone came back in and picked that one up. I like Tim Allen, though. He's my favorite astronaut.
Okay.
I would say we need a TV series of Galaxy Quest, but then again we've got the Orville, so
Right.
Yeah.
And depending on who you listen to, that's the best Star Trek that's out there right now. I'm not saying because I hadn't seen that or Discovery, so
right. I haven't watched either one either.
So I can't say one way or the other. But alrighty, anybody have any other selections?
I have one more.
Okay.
And it's got Bruce Campbell in it.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Bird Notice.
ah.
Yes.
You've mentioned this one before, haven't you?
Yeah, I have.
You still want more.
I still want more. Well, I think they messed up in like the 6th season. And I think that if they did a reboot, they could do that a little better, but I want Bruce Campbell and Jeffrey Donovan back together again. They just made such a good team, you know. But, yeah. And for those who haven't seen it, he was a FBI spy, and he had a burn notice put out on him, which pretty much ends your career. Nobody will deal with you, nobody will talk with you, because he was a spy, and it pretty much outs you to the whole world. Here he is, the government washes their hands of you. So he tries to figure out who put the burn notice on him and why, and so he's kind of on the run, but he doesn't realize from who. But he's trying to figure out who it is and who did this to him, and it was a big old cat and mouse chase, because just as soon as you thought they were going to show you who it was, and everything pointed to, this one agency or this one person, they would be like, nah, we're just kidding, and go in totally opposite direction. So it was kind of one of those, even when you thought you knew what was going on, you didn't know what was going on. They always threw that twist or that extra person or something at you, which totally blew your whole theory of what was going on. But the way it ended, it could, they could make him, and I think her name was Jessie, he got his son, and it led to believe that they had died, but they didn't die. And she was talking about a case with them, so either follow them two over and start a new thing, or just redo the burn notice. But it was really good. Like, Bruce Campbell was absolutely hilarious in this one, and it was crazy.
In a lot of things.
Yeah, because no matter, even how crazy he was, half the time he was the voice of reason on the show, so it was kind of like, oh man, now you're in trouble if he's the voice of reason. So I think that one would be a pretty good one to either reboot it or just spin off from him and her, Because Bruce didn't die. He could still go over there. And now that he's done with, what is it, Ash?
Ash and the Evil's Dead. Yeah.
So he's definitely free.
That's a good choice.
So it's one of those ones you had to think when you watched it. It wasn't just, brain flutter.
Eye candy.
Yeah.
Although there was plenty of that.
Oh yeah, there was plenty of that. Yeah, I think they worked really well together. Like I said, the 6th season, they kind of went, they made him, like, he found out who burned him, and he started working with them, so he kind of turned evil for a while, and he stopped helping people like he was doing, so it was kind of like, what? This isn't Michael, So I'm glad in the 7th season they kind of brought it back around, and I think his mama brought him to his senses after that. Beat the tire out of him. Yeah, it was a pretty good little series. And it ran for a while, too. 7 seasons? So, good material to work from.
Yep. Plenty of room for a spin-off.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to go that route, sure.
Yep.
Well, you guys did hear that Roseanne is coming back in a different format?
No, I haven't heard that.
They're releasing it as The Connors, which involves her family, but she is not to be on the show.
Yeah, they're killing her character off.
Yeah.
Couldn't have happened to a nicer person.
Well, I mean, it's only fair because they killed off John Goodman's character, and then they brought him back. So hey.
Yeah. But I don't really think it solves the problem of what everybody was upset with, because she owns the show, so she's still making money from the show. She just doesn't have to work now. Is that how it's working?
Yeah, that's true.
She'll still make the money. She just doesn't have to be on TV to get it now.
I'm sure they've worked around that to a certain degree.
They'd still have to buy her out, because she wrote and produced the show. But she did say that she didn't want the cast to pay for her mistake. So maybe she has worked something out with them, or some of the rights, or not all the rights, or something. But that was her show.
What about the other big title that's coming back this fall? I know everybody's on pins and needles for Magnum.
What?
I didn't even know about it.
I didn't
This is the
either.
first I've heard of it.
Oh, really? Yes.
I don't pay attention to TV, man.
So will he have the Tom Selleck mustache too, or
Oh, no.
no?
No, the guy looks nothing like Selleck.
Oh man.
Yeah, I forgot who it is.
See, sometimes don't you just cringe when they talk about rebooting something, though?
You know, honestly,
Like,
I friggin' cringe every time they talk about rebooting something.
yeah, because there's just some things you should just leave alone, you know? Like Charm.
Yeah,
Leave it alone.
It's Jay Hernandez,
Hmm.
who he's done a lot of stuff. He was on the series Nashville, gang related, The Expanse, most recently Scandal. So,
Watch Scandal. Or did. That's another show that ended.
yeah, he played Curtis Price.
Oh, wow. Nothing like Magnum at all.
Yeah, no. Not even a little bit.
Mm-mm.
But,
Wow.
you know, I mean, if he can act, that's all that really matters.
If he can do the job and good stories, hey, if
Yeah.
people are watching it, then there you go.
Right, that's the deal.
You know, and I hate to say this, but a lot of the shows from like the 80s, kind of like we was talking about the eye candy, that's
Yeah.
what made a lot of these shows successful. Wasn't necessarily the content, but the people they had playing it. So I don't know about that one.
As opposed to now.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's
I was
even
gonna say,
more.
if we're going to talk about the shallowness of 80s TV, that's a whole other show. I mean, we gotta save that one for a different episode.
And that's like the two brothers. One was a blonde.
Simon and Simon.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, I thought you were going Dukes of Hazzard, but okay.
They were
Yeah, I
cousins,
know
they
Dukes
were
of Hazzard.
brothers.
Yeah. But yeah, just some of those it should just, you know, should be left alone.
Yeah, well, you ask me, all of it should be left alone, but whatever. I'm not the nostalgia guy around here. That's for sure.
And of course, another one they need to redo is Teen Titans, which we were promised. If their little movie did good, they would pick up where they left off on that one, and the movie did real good. So we shall see.
Alrighty. Any final comments before we take a quick break?
No.
Okay.
Like, don't care who started it again.
That's a good one.
That sounds pretty definite.
On that note, we are going to take a quick break and be back with our weekly picks. And we're back. It's time for our weekly picks, and leading off this week is Les.
All right. Let's go with Moon Maid #1 from American mythology. Christopher Mills is your writer, and this is going to be based on the characters from Edgar Rice Burroughs, and it's all tied into their Fear on Four Worlds theme. This is the second chapter of this saga, and the Moon Maid, it takes place on Earth's moon, but as described in the novels, the world below the crust of the moon is a world of lush purple vegetation, half human, half horse characters, and the Na'ila, the moon maid itself. And it's because it's an ERB based book, I'm in on this. I enjoy the characters that Burroughs has created in the various books that he has done, and because of this, they are able to take characters from other series and bring it into this one. So, as a big proponent of the Burroughs books, I'm ready for this one to come out.
Sweet.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. Liz, you're up next.
All right. For my first pick, it's actually a 2-for-1. I've recommended Oblivion Song before. It's one of Robert Kirkman's newer comics, which is really good because a decade ago, half the town just like poof went missing, and they went into what they're calling the Oblivion. And so the one guy had family who's trapped on the other side, and after several failed attempts, the government trying to get these people out and everything else, they kind of threw up their hands and were like, we can't do it. We're just going to have to say goodbye to half the population here. So one guy decides he's going to go into this Oblivion, and he keeps, looking for his family and stuff. So far in the 6 issues that he's put out, he's found people there. I won't tell you if he's found his family or not, but he's running into now, everybody thinks this is such a horrible place that they're in, which there's monsters and stuff running around, but these people don't want to leave. They've been there, they're kind of adjusted, and they've got their own little rebellion going on and everything else. So 1 through 6 is that arc. The new one that I'm recommending is number 7, which will start a new arc. But the trade for this is also coming out on the same day. So if you'd like to pick it up, like I said, it's totally different than his Walking Dead stuff completely, which, if you've never listened to the show before, is one of my favorites.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm shocked and appalled.
Totally.
I'm shocked to find out that there's gambling that this is stuff.
But he's done really good to get away from the zombie thing in this one. So, after you do something for 15 years, you kind of get labeled into that. So and it's in color. So he does do that. So pick these 2 up. Like I said, the trade will cover 1 through 6, which is the first arc in this story. But this story is so far from being over. I think, if anything, they've just barely touched the tip to let you know what's going on. So I will probably be recommending this one again just because it has been so good.
Just warning us ahead of time here.
Yep, I am. Which, anything with Kirkman, I'll talk about at least. So
That's cool.
Alrighty. Mike.
Okie dokie. My first pick is an Action Lab book, and this is actually a trade. This is the Volume 1 trade for a book called Helm. And this is the story of a guy named Erich. And the world he lives in is very interesting. It's essentially a fantasy world, which has kind of undergone a bit of an industrial revolution, which gives the world a very kind of steampunk feel, which is cool. But Eldrick has been tracked down by a mysterious and fairly well-known witch who almost immediately starts quoting prophecy at him and telling him that he's kind of the chosen one in a way. And it turns out that part of that, and I'm not going too deep into the story here because I don't want to spoil much, but it turns out that he's got at least the beginnings of some magical talent himself. And so there's a lot of running from the authorities and learning about ourselves like you normally would do in like the first few chapters of a story. And it's really it's a really well done story, at least the beginning of it. And the art is really pretty too, so definitely worth taking a look at if you're into anything that I just mentioned.
Cool. I'm up next, and my first choice is a new miniseries from Archie Comics. It's called Archie 1941. And obviously this takes place in 1941, just before America's involvement in World War II. And of course you got the gang here. But this is written by Mark Waid and Brian Augustin, with art by Kelly Fitzpatrick and Peter Krause. And this has me excited because it's Mark Waid and Peter Krause together again. For those who might remember, they worked on the Irredeemable series for Boom back in the day, which was such a great read. But with this miniseries, it's obviously dealing with the kids having to deal with the oncoming war, or at least America's involvement, because it was going on with the rest of the world, and how that's going to affect them. So it looks good from what I've seen of the art, and so it's kind of a nice harken back to the early days of the comic, because it's been around for 76 years. So it should be an interesting read.
Does John Belushi appear in this at all?
It would be awesome if he did.
Oh.
Hey, if we're going to go with obscure movie references, let's just go whole hog, right? No, this does sound interesting. I joke, but it is an
we usually do.
It is an interesting take on that time frame and on these characters, I think.
Alrighty, Les, you're up again.
I have to follow that. Okay. My second choice comes from Ahoy Comics. This is number 1 of The Wrong Earth. This is a satire of superheroes, and in it, the characters Dragonfly Man and his sidekick Stinger are heroes that hunt criminals with like an exterminator, like a lethal exterminator. But what happens when these two heroes change places? That is the premise of this story, and I've got a feeling that I'm going to read this and laugh my butt off, because there are so many different ways this could go. And by preaching that it's a satire, I'm ready. I want to see what they can actually do. So try it. Pick it up.
Sounds good.
I like when people make fun of supers.
Yeah, this was on my list too, so I'm curious to see how this is going to go. And this is a new publisher, if I'm not mistaken.
So.
Cool.
So
much
but you got the like, yeah. So you get the likes of Tom Payer writing it, and Jamal Engel doing the art, so it's gonna be. I think it's got some potential there.
Mm-hmm.
I believe so too.
Alrighty, Liz, you're up next.
All right, for my second pick, it's an oldie but a goodie. It's the 30th anniversary issue of The Killing Joke. For those of you who haven't read this is one I've called before an essential Batman title, especially if you're into the Joker. I would say this is more of a Joker story, but the premise of the book is Joker believes that only one bad day is what separates him and Batman. That Batman's just this good guy because he hasn't had that one bad day like Joker has that pushed him over the edge into a bad acid. But he goes after Gordon. He kidnaps Gordon, and of course this is where Barbara becomes paralyzed in this story. And Batman almost loses it. I mean, I think he did there at the end. He kind of cracked, But this will collect that story, which of course was done by Alan Moore. But it will also have with it Batman Black and White #4, Countdown #31, Who's Who in DC Universe. And it says with bonus material that includes Brian Boland's new coloring for the deluxe edition. So 128 pages. This one's very good. If you have not read the book, but you've watched the animated movie that they put out, this is so much better. so much better. There's not that much of the Batgirl in it that was in the movie. So definitely have to pick this one up. 30 years, it's still a classic. It's still a very good story. So definitely get that one.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to this one too, to see what incarnations they can do with this, what additions they can give to it, and make it that much more fun.
I think they're keeping the story, just adding bonus stuff to it.
Yeah.
I said, I don't know how they could change the story for it to be any better than what it was. This has always been one of my favorite Batman stories. But like I said, I think it's just as much a Joker story as it is a Batman story, though. It kind of gives us the inner workings of his mind and what he classifies as a bad day. Which in my book's a horrible, horrible day, but...
Yep, pretty controversial back in the day.
Yeah, even today,
This should probably not be your first Batman book. Just saying.
No, because this is more of a dirty, grittier story. I mean, it's Alan Moore completely.
Well, there's that, yes.
But, Batman in the old days, he was kind of gothic and gritty, and they didn't go around paralyzing people and stuff, but,
Alrighty. Mikey, you're next.
Alrighty. Well, my next pick is from IDW, and this is also a book that I've talked about before. This is a hardcover collection of Frankenstein Alive Alive, which was written by Steve Niles, and the art is primarily by Bernie Wrightson. This is the last thing he was working on when he passed away. And he hand selected his kind of the guy who he wanted to finish the story if he didn't get to. So they brought in Kelly Jones to finish out the art for the last handful of pages. I don't remember exactly how many it was. But this is a very, very nice, very pretty hardcover collection of that story. And it's a very good story, starring a character who was one of Wrightson's favorites to draw the Frankenstein monster. So this is definitely something that Bernie Wrightson fans will want to pick up, and it's also just really, really pretty art too. It would be a one hell of an introduction to Bernie Wrightson's art, if you wanted to view it as such.
Great choice.
Yeah.
Okay. For my second choice, I'm going a little bit lighter as opposed to the last two picks, which is fine. It's a nice change of pace.
Also very easy to do, in a way. Yeah.
And this is also a mini-series. Well, frankly, Archie of 1941 is probably going to be a little bit darker than normal, too, so, hey. This is from IDW Publishing, and it's Star Trek versus Transformers. And this is actually the animated version of both properties, which could be very interesting. This is written by John Barber, who's been handling basically all of the Transformer books for quite a while. And then Mike Johnson, who's been doing the Star Trek, the Kelvin timeline Star Trek for IDW since they started. So you got two guys who know what they're doing when they're writing this book, with art by Phil Murphy. This should be kind of interesting. IDW's been doing some interesting crossovers. There's been some really interesting crossovers. Like Star Trek, Planet of the Apes, or Green Lantern, Star Trek, or Green Lantern. Just so I'm kind of curious to see how this is going to be done, because this obviously is being done as the animated style. So kind of a unique choice. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, it would have been difficult to crossbreed J.J. Abrams and Michael Bay, so I think the animated versions is the way to go here.
Okay. And our honorable mention is...
Who was supposed to talk about our honorable mention?
I forgot what it was.
MST3K.
Yeah.
Yep. Mr. Science Theater 3000 is getting a comic book series. And this is kind of interesting because what it is they're actually, instead of spoofing movies, they are spoofing public domain comics. So I thought that's kind of cool that they're doing that.
That's just a nice idea.
I've had a chance to read the first issue, and I liked it. And of course, this is the current incarnation of the show. So you don't have Joel or Mike. It's I can't remember
Is it Jonah?
the new guy. Yeah, it's Jonah. Yeah.
Yeah, the Netflix.
Yeah, it's based off the Netflix series. Yes. So.
Yep. Agreed. I think this will be fun.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. Any special mentions this week?
No.
We had some comics folks pass away in the last week or so.
Yes, we have to mention the passing of Gary Friedrich and Maurice Severin, both legends in the industry. Gary Friedrich was the co-creator of the Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider, but wrote for a ton of different publishers, a lot of good stuff. He wrote for Charlton and Marvel, and pretty sure he did some DC stuff. I know he did some stuff for Atlas Seaboard and all. So, and of course Marie Severin. Oh my God. I'm not sure who I said this to, but I mentioned that I think her and Herb Trimpe had a more lasting impact on the Incredible Hulk than Kirby, and Kirby was the one who helped create the character. But they were on the book for so long, and so it's their version, it's their look that kind of defined the character for a good long time. And of course, she also did the art for their comedy books, like Not Brand Ec and some of the other stuff. So just it's sad to see these legends go.
Yeah, the upside is we have their work to kind of make it a little easier.
Mm-hmm.
Lots and lots of work from both of them, for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff.
Any other shout-outs? Any special mentions?
Don't think so.
Okay.
Nothing here.
Okay. With that, we'll be doing our regular shout-outs. And obviously, the first one we go to is Mandy DeMartyr, who supplies our music for the podcast. You should definitely check out their music. We'll have a link in the show notes. I also want to thank the fine folks who make up Podern Family on Twitter for spreading the word of the fellowship. You should definitely go check out their work, and the easiest way to do that is go to Twitter and do a search, hashtag Podern Family as one word, and just scroll down, and something catches your fancy, download that episode and give it a listen, and you never know, I'm pretty sure you'll pick up a pretty good show that you need to listen to on a weekly basis. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for your support. It's greatly appreciated. We value your feedback. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a comment, question, suggestion, complaint, observation, whatever, please let us know. There are several ways you can do that. Email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net is one way, or you can go to the website and check out the About Us page, and there's a contact form that you can fill out. Please follow us on social media. On Facebook, we're the Fellowship of the Geeks, and on Twitter, we are at Fellowship Geeks. And if you'd like to follow our personal Twitter accounts, please do. Mike can be found at Mikey Geek. Liz can be found at Newman_L. And I can be found at TomTC Geek. And wherever you download our episodes from, whether it's through iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, or YouTube, it would be greatly appreciated if you would rate and review our show. Any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you very much.
Or good afternoon, whenever you're listening to this.
Or morning, yeah,
Morning. No.
Happy commute.
We don't judge.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. We do appreciate your support. And until next time, read more comics and support your local stores. We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,